Well, hello, good morning. Welcome to American Reversion. I'm Steve Smith. Welcome to all the new people and all the old people. I've been checking the numbers. I do that every morning. And every morning I see that we continue to grow, and thank you so much. That's what we're after. We're after growing the channel because we want what we're saying, what you believe also. It's not just me up here spouting off. It's me sharing and providing to you some information you might not know because you have busy, productive lives, unlike the other side who can spend all their time moaning and complaining and protesting and things like that. You all have jobs or you have ways in which you're otherwise productive and contribute to this world. So I delve into the idiocy of the world and find out what we want to talk about and share it with you. Anyway, thank you for being here. Please share this with your friends and anybody else that you think might need to hear it. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a way to do it, and you can go down. There's a link down here, and you can go over to Patreon and join us over there as a patron. And you can do it for $1 or whatever you would like. Anything you want to do is appreciated. So thank you so much. We're here. We're loaded up today, and we have some craziness, some strangeness, and some dangerous stuff to cover. As always, I think I'll try to start with the, well, I would say that this is silliness, but it's not really silliness. It's something that you would want to know, and it's important. By the way, Mrs. Snerdley is wandering around here somewhere. She was behind the camera a minute ago. She's got the sniffles, so if you hear some sniffling back there, it is her. And she's here in case I need to say, hey, do you remember such and such? She is my designated hard drive. She is the memory, sometimes the short memory, but she is the memory that when I'm trying to come up with something, she will remind me. You're probably eating too much plastic, aren't you? Yes, you are. Whether you want to admit it or not, the latest studies, and this comes from Gut News. Gut News. I didn't realize, I used to think that gut was just something that, you got punched in the gut. I didn't know was really an anatomic or a physiological term, but apparently it is. And I know those of you out there are going, well, of course it is. I knew that, but I didn't. And it's only recently when I started hearing all about these different, keto diet and carnivore diets and things like this, that I realized that gut was an actual term. It was something that, other than something you could be punched in, and something called, Mrs. Snerdley, are you within listening distance? I know. What is this thing? A gut biome or something? Is that, the term that I'm referring to? Uh-huh. Gut biome.
The gut biome?
Yeah. What in the world is a gut biome?
Like your gut bacteria.
The gut bacteria.
Your gut health.
The gut health. See, Mrs. Snerdley is important of all the bacteria here in our home, and so she knows about this stuff.
I'm impressed that you knew that it was gut biome.
She's impressed. Did you hear that? I hope you all were too. So from Gut News, health news, this is cute. Health news that's easy to digest. I love people who are clever and come up with these kinds of things. Well, anyway, gut health, microbiome, there it is. It said it right there. If I just scrolled down, I wouldn't have had to act so stupid. I could have acted as if I knew it all along. It says, you're eating a credit card's worth of plastic every week, and it's altering your gut makeup. Wow. Are you munching on your credit cards? Well, it says, how much plastic is sitting in your gut? If you think the answer is 0, think again. A recent review suggests people consume about 5 grams of plastic particles per week, the equivalent of the weight of a credit card. Now, I talked about this the other day, didn't I? What was I talking about? I don't know. I was talking about plastics, people eating oh yeah, I'm sorry?
Plastic in blood work.
Right, in the blood work. See, that's why she's here, because I will sit around going, what was I talking? I don't know. And she said, well, here's what you were talking about. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so it says that was from a Dutch study to where they found for the first time plastics in living human blood. So I'll continue this article here. It says nanoplastics are any plastics less than 0.001 millimeters in size. Microplastics, on the other hand, are 0.001 to 5 millimeters, and on some occasions still visible to the naked eye. Most microplastic and nanoplastics find their way to the human food chain from packaging waste. Packaging waste. Plastic particles can enter the body through seafood, sea salt, or drinking water. One study referenced in the review found people who drank the recommended 1.5 to 2 liters of water a day from plastic bottles take in 90,000 plastic particles per year from this way alone. People who opt for tap water reduce their ingested amount to about 40,000 plastic particles. So away with the plastic drinks or bottles, okay? Plastic bottled water is putting plastic in your system. You know, I've said before, usually I talk about this over on the preparedness channel, integrative preparedness. We always drink our drinking water and a lot of our cooking water, most of our cooking water, especially when it's absorbed like into pasta and rice and things like that, through a Berkey filter, and I highly recommend that. They are not a sponsor of this program. I wish they were. And I forgot to pick up my book that is the sponsor. Imagine that I'm holding up my book right there. This is brought to you by my book, The Reversion, after which I named this channel, and my latest book, The Blessings of Freedom. So you can find those. Mrs. Snerdley, well, you know, there it is. Produced by Mrs. Snerdley. The Reversion, my first book about the collapse of America and the rebuilding of it according to traditional values and principles. And my latest book, The Blessings of Freedom, the last one that's out, not the last book. I'm writing the 6th, but the most recently published one, The Blessings of Freedom, picks up the story, and in between, yes, there are numbers 2, 3, and 4. And you can find those on Amazon in either paperback or Kindle. Right. Thank you, Mrs. Snerdley. And what should I, I should have something clever and cute as a way to kind of promote these. And I will say, if you like goodness, if you like America, if you like your mother and apple pie, you will like these books. And you should buy them because they'll make you a better person. No, I'm teasing on that. You all are great people out there. Anyway, that's something to keep in mind about all the plastic that's in your body. Throw away those plastic bottles and get yourself a good something else, aluminum canteen or something. Okay, the next thing also has to do with our health, and it has to, Mrs. Snerdley has been feeding me avocados, depending on what, if you want to sound fancy, it's avocados. For some time, I have loved avocados all my life just because I love guacamole, okay? I realized they were made from avocados. That changed my mind none. So I love them. Well, she puts them in our omelets. She puts them on my hamburgers. She puts them on pretty much everything except chocolate ice cream. I don't like them on chocolate ice cream. And it turns out here that eating avocado twice a week cuts the risk of heart disease by 1/5. A study finds, let's see who did this study. Although no links were found between eating avocado and the risk of stroke. Okay, so this comes from The Independent. Eating 2 or more servings of avocado a week can cut the risk of heart disease by 1/5, new research has found. Let's see where the study comes. The study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association. So this wasn't from Joe and Bob's, avocado farm. It was the study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association, surveyed more than 68,000 women and 41,000 men on their diets every 4 years that is a very good sampling, isn't it? So anyway, I won't bore you with all this. I'll put the link up over on the Patreon channel, which I always put. What's on Patreon, you may ask? I didn't tell you that earlier. Patreon, I put everything that I put on YouTube over on Patreon, and then that allows me to put links to the things that I've talked about below that, so you can access them directly and read them for yourself, read the entirety, which I never do here, and also have something to share with your friends. And then I put a lot of stuff over there too. So it's kind of the private club, and we would love to have you over there. Okay, let's go to the next issue. Germany issues. Now we're getting into the more serious stuff. Not that your health isn't serious, but Germany issues, this is from the Washington Post. Germany issues a gas supply warning. Poland to halt Russian oil imports. Interesting. Let's see what they have to say about it. I've already read it, so I know what they're going to say, but I'm going to share it with you. The German government was from Berlin. The German government on Wednesday took the first step in an emergency plan aimed at preparing for a possible halt to gas deliveries over a dispute with Moscow about payments in rubles. That's right. Well, you know what's going to happen then, because India and others have already agreed to pay in rubles. I'm sure they're going to have plenty of customers for their gas supply, because they're going to cut the price, get paid in rubles, stabilize the ruble, destabilize the dollar, all these things that are going to drive up our costs and hurt us. And I'm not sure the extent to which they are going to hurt Russia. Anyway, the plan's early warning phase, initiated by Germany's Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action, got to put climate in there, was precautionary. It involved assembling a crisis team to monitor supplies as the government asked businesses and private households to, quote, reduce their consumption as much as possible. Is Jimmy Carter running things over there now? Do you remember, those of you, some of you are old enough to remember Jimmy Carter, when we had the oil embargo here, and his solution to that was not to produce more here in the United States, but to turn the thermostat down and wear a sweater. Later phases of the emergency plan, if implemented, could involve rationing gas. Okay, let's see. Let's go down here. Germany urged to stop Putin's war machine, resist embargo on... What was the second part of this? There's something... What's Poland doing? Poland's doing something. I'm also going to put this over on the... Patreon, so you'll be able to see the whole thing. But anyway, that's what's hoping. And Poland is to halt. They are about to halt Russian oil imports. That will have an effect on what's going on here. If I talk more about that, I'll never get to everything else. But you all have a good idea about this. Is just escalating the oil wars. And, that's a better war to have than a shooting war or a nuclear war, right? I'll take an oil war over a nuclear war any day, but, be prepared. Keep your tanks topped off, and be ready and make noise in this upcoming election to drill, baby, drill. Okay, from the No Q report, Vladimir Zelensky. Remember Zelensky, the gay BDSM dancer? If you don't know what I'm talking about with that, get a glimpse of the true Zelensky. I posted it over on Patreon maybe a week ago, something like that. It shows him dancing with his friends in stiletto heels and black bondage looking like stuff. I'm still trying to erase that out of my mind, watching him dance around like that. But anyway, he's the one that everybody is holding up as being the man, right? The macho, the leader, the one to which we should all aspire. Well, see, he has some advice for us now. Zelensky claims the way that Europe can stop the Russian invasion is if they go green. Let's go green. That brings to mind the tilting at windmills, doesn't it? You know who I'm talking about, right? So I guess if they throw up some windmills, then that will stop the war or win the war or something like that. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Dancer Boy Zelensky addressed the Danish parliament on Tuesday. He's sure making the tour, isn't he? He's addressing this and addressing that. He's addressing so many people you'd think he worked for the post office. He told them of Russia's aggressions toward his people. Is there anybody who hasn't heard of that? He told them, including claims that they rape women and children. Claims that they rape women and children. Did I not tell you when this first started, if they couldn't get the oomph behind their little cause here, they were going to start making claims about rape and children. He claimed that 2,000 children have been deported to Russia and nobody knows exactly where they are. Of course, what he doesn't add is that some of those children were the Russian-speaking children that had been persecuted by Ukraine. Then his speech took an unexpected turn. Immediately after telling of the horrors his people are facing at the hands of Russian troops, he started talking about climate change. You know why? Because he's a good boy. He is a good little boy from Klaus Schwab and George Soros, whose intent is to collapse the West with their eco programs. Okay, so he says this: long before this war, it was clear that humanity should reduce the use of fossil fuels. The era of coal and oil has caused huge damage to the environment, to our planet as a whole. Green technologies and green energy have become a logical and just answer to this challenge. Hey, bondage boy, listen up. Oil and gas and fossil fuels are the fuel that built this world, that built Western civilization as we know it today. It fueled the Industrial Revolution. It is responsible for building everything you and all the greenies enjoy. Okay? And the United States and Western Europe, the so-called West, don't spew that much out anymore. Okay? They don't. We don't. You might go over and talk to your buddies in China and India because they are the big polluters in the world. But because you and your friends on the Democrat side here in our politics like to punish the West out of some perverse sense of shame, you want to hook us up with all the Kyoto Accords and this and that, saying that the U.S. must reduce our emissions to a self-crippling point while totally ignoring the real polluters of the world. Your hypocrisy is endless. And nobody with two functioning brain cells who can rub up against each other and create any kind of heat takes you seriously. Mrs. Snurdly, don't you wish that Vladimir was sitting right here at the table so that he could respond? Yes. Yeah. Okay, let's move on, shall we, from that idiocy. The WHO, the World Health Organization, it's difficult to just start off with who warns social surveillance, right? Because who warns? Who warns? It sounds like a question. So I have to say the WHO, which sounds like a Dr. Seuss book, right? The WHO warns social surveillance must remain even as global coronavirus cases plunge. Well, of course it must remain, because that's what this was all about, right? Okay, it says the number of new coronavirus cases fell globally last week, including in the Western Pacific region, where they had been rising since December, the World Health Organization reported Wednesday. I know. Am I making fun of? Yes, I am. That unalloyed good news, unalloyed? Is that a word? The unalloyed good news was tempered by a caution for governments everywhere to maintain strict social surveillance levels to thwart, I love that, to thwart any possible resurgence now and into the future. Why? Because that's what this has always been about. It has always been about control and surveillance, which is control. right? I'll post that up there, over there on Patreon for your consuming pleasure. And so you can share it with your friends. Now let's get to the sick stuff, right? For the really sick stuff, we have to come back to our own country, and specifically Disney. Disney and the Supreme Court. Let's get into, you want to hear some sick stuff? Don't worry, I'm going to post this over on Patreon. You'll get the word. Disney executive who is the mother of a transgender and a pansexual child said, I'm not sure that I understand pansexual. I know that there's a definition, and I know that my inability to understand it comes from my own ignorance. I admit that. I also admit that my ignorance, I retain that ignorance because I don't really care about learning about more of this. I know that makes me a horrible person. But whenever they say pansexual, it brings me back to our oldest son, Aiden. When he was, I don't know, 3rd grade, 4th grade, Mrs. Snurdley will remind me of this. He'd come home and he'd say that somebody has a pan face. And I said, a pan face? How old was he?
5 or 6.
5 or 6. Yeah. He'd come and he's one of these, he is very, let me see how we're doing on time. He's very, he pays attention. He sees things in the world that you don't want him to see. And he would come over and call somebody had a pan face. And I'm thinking, pan face. It must be something, I don't know what it means. When you have a kid who's 5 or 6, you're so busy doing things that sometimes you don't pursue something. You don't ask, what does that mean, son? He would say this for several years. And finally, I asked him, I said, what exactly? I would always laugh because it sounds funny, right? What does that mean, a pan face? He says, because it looks like somebody hit him in the face with a pan. So anyway, that's what I think about. And I know that it's not funny, and I'm not supporting violence against anyone, but that's what I think about when I hear pansexual. Are you attracted to a pan? Okay. Disney executive who is the mother of a transgender and a pansexual child says she wants at least half of all future characters to be LGBTQIA. I want to make sure I got that right. Or racial minorities. Theme parks are now banned from saying, hello, boys and girls. Let me read this. And I'll put this up over there. And there is I believe there is. I can't play it for you here, but there is a video with her talking all about this that you're going to want to see. So Carrie Burke said at an all-hands meeting that she spoke as a mother and a corporate leader advocating for more inclusive Disney characters. She defended the company for its LGBTQIA characters, but promised to bring more. Her comments came after Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed and they call it the Don't Say Gay bill. It has nothing to do with Don't Say Gay. The word gay is not included in the bill. What it says is don't teach our kindergartner through 3rd graders about sex. It's none of your business about gender or anything else. You teachers have nothing to say about it. You shouldn't, and we don't want you to. Okay, that's what it says. Matter of fact, I thought that I was going to put up, I think I neglected to include it in today's stuff, the male kindergarten teacher who is all upset that he can't share his personal life with his kids, as he calls them. He doesn't have kids, but he calls them his kids. That's disgusting. I'll find that. I'll put that up over on the links on this one over on Patreon as well. You want to see that one. Disney Television Animation Executive Producer LaToya Ravino said everyone supported her not at all secret gay agenda. Disney partner Nadine Smith, co-founder of Equality Florida, said the goal of the Republican bill was to take children from their parents. Disney theme parks no longer assume that little girls want to be called princess. And there's something down here I want to get to before I get off of this one. A Disney executive in charge of content vowed to up the ante on gender politics during an all-hands meeting. We heard that, promising that at least half the characters in the productions would be LGBTQIA or from racial minorities by the end of the year. General Entertainment President Carrie Burke said, blah, we heard that. The call was part of Disney's Reimagine Tomorrow. We're getting to where I want to say, and then I'm going to cut this off. Reimagine Tomorrow campaign, which promises that 50% of characters and content would be from underrepresented groups by 2022. My question, no, I'm going to get back to that. I'll finish this, then I have a question. Meanwhile, Disney's diversity and inclusion chief, Vivian, said that they no longer address theme park visitors as ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, but instead as dreamers and friends. Now, my question is this. They say that they want 50% of characters and content to be from underrepresented groups by 2022. Now, we learned just a few videos ago that Black Americans make up 12% of our total population, and that gays, I'm not sure, I'm not into this, so I don't know what the proper term is. I don't think I get in trouble by saying gay because that's what they say. Anyway, let me put it this way, LGBTQIAers only account for anywhere from 2 to 4%. So how are they underrepresented? Because everything that I see on TV, they're very well included. And wouldn't it make sense that groups that are 4% and 12% respectively, that if they were made up 50% of the characters and content, wouldn't that make them overrepresented, and then other people underrepresented? Well, we don't support Disney. And I will be interested to see how many other people decide they don't want to either. And we will see what happens when the money from the soon-to-be underrepresented majority stops flowing into their little hands. In keeping with that, not only are Mickey and Minnie involved in this, but KBJ. Is that how I hear her? Ketanji Brown Jackson. She disagreed with an expert witness definition of pedophilia. This is the brilliant woman who they're putting up for Supreme Court Justice, as you all know, that didn't know what a woman was. But she, at one time, they have found, as they dig back through her past, which won't make a bit of difference. She can be as nutty as a fruitcake, and I like fruitcake, and still get in because, after all, she is all of the important things in the world. She is a woman, and she's black, and that makes her smarter than anyone else and more caring. So anyway, Ketanji Brown Jackson disagreed with her expert witness's definition of pedophilia during a hearing while serving as vice chair of the U.S. Sentencing Commission. At a February 2012 Sentencing Commission hearing, Jackson debated the definition of pedophilia with expert witness Gerald Grant, a digital forensics investigator. James Fotrell, a U.S. Department of Justice criminal child exploitation expert, and Dr. Jean Abel, founder of a medical group that works to identify pedophiles. During the hearing, Jackson said, "I'm wondering whether you could say that there could be a less serious child pornography offender who is engaging in the type of conduct in the group experience level because their motivation is the challenge or to use the technology." Yes, Judge, I would say they're using the technology in order to access kiddie porn. That would be my answer. They're very sophisticatedly this is her continuing, they're very sophisticated technologically, but they aren't necessarily that interested in the child pornography piece of it. So I guess she's saying that, well, they're just interested in using their computers, not necessarily accessing the hundreds of thousands of pictures of child pornography that they have downloaded or accessed. Josh Hawley from Missouri, who I like, one of the many reasons that Missouri is a great state. He says, Judge Jackson has said that some people who possess child porn are in this for either the collection or the people who are loners and find status in their participation in the community. What community would that be, he asks. The community of child exploiters? Yes, it would be. How are we doing on time? I better shut this off. I'm sorry, I don't have time to get to the last one. Stick with us. Be with you tomorrow. I'll include another one, the last one. Have a good day. Remember that America needs a reversion and needs you to be a part of it. If you'd like to support the channel, come over and join us on Patreon. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.